Good morning, everybody. We are starting another travel tech full of new information, new experiences. Welcome to the last one of this period, this edition of 2022. We have here lots of brilliant people just helping us to spread the knowledge and to spread experience with everybody. I'm going to start talking to presenting everybody. Okay, if you have any comment or anything, even during my speech, you are free to ask me. So that's it. I'm going to introduce Danica Smith. She's the director of product engagement of Review Pro. Selena Souah, welcome everybody. She's the founder and the CEO of REGCARD. Xose Manuel Feijoo, which is who is the head of communication, head of international sales of Boldest. Fernando Morote-CGO of Gimmonix. Jean-Jérôme Peytavi. I don't know if I said it right. I'm sorry for that. I'm trying. Chief Strategy Officer of Chekin. And we're going to start the first round of questions. Okay, so you can feel free in a couple of minutes or three to comment a little about your company, about yourself, about you do a little your pitch, your brief of what you know, and feel free to do any comments, to do any questions. Okay, so let's start that. One second, please. Okay, Danica, please take your time. If you want to tell us a little about yourself and about Review Pro, please feel free.
Cool. Thank you very much, Philippe, and thanks for hosting today. It's not the easiest job, so super excited to be here. And thank you to Travel Tech for having me back. So my name's Danica. I'm the Director of Product Engagement at Review Pro. And for those of you that don't know us, Review Pro is part of the Feijoo Group, a global company serving a wide range of technology needs for the hospitality industry. At Review Pro, we currently work with over 60,000 hotels in 150 countries, and we've been helping our clients around the world really with one sole objective, and that's to improve the guest experience. Myself, I've been in the industry for far too long, but very excited. Just come back from WTM. So anybody listening who was there in London, I'm sure you are feeling the buzz of the industry. I'm engaged and energized and ready to go. And I used to be a client of Review Pro. So I've been talking about reputation management for over 12 years. And what's really ironic is the message is pretty much the same in 2023. Although what we're seeing at Review Pro is the role of guest communications and how that directly impacts the guest experience is super exciting. Lots of different variables to take into consideration. So yeah, I'm really excited to kick things off today and dive in, and please, everybody listening in, send us questions and comments on the chat. And once again, thanks for having us. It's going to be a good session.
Cool. Thank you, Danica. So please, Selena Souah, if you could present yourself, please be more than welcome.
Thank you for having me in Travel Tech. So I'm Selena Souah, the founder and CEO of REGCARD. REGCARD is a digital hotel registration card that travels with you anywhere in the world. So I'm an entrepreneur in telecom and tech. So as a globetrotter, normally changing from one hotel or hotel group to another means completing a new registration process every time. So I simply wanted to gather and save all information related to all my past trips in one place. That means one website that keeps record of my profile, my preferences, my check-ins, check-out, my bills, and where I would be able to chat directly with the hotel for special requests before and during my stay. So that's why in 2019, I founded REGCARD.com, the only digital hotel registration card for all your express check-in, check-out in any hotel in the world that simplifies the whole traveling experience. REGCARD is online since May 2022 and already had a database of around 90,000 travelers and 4,000 hotels around the world, thanks to our massive communication. So travelers simply need to create their free account on the website, fill their profile preferences once for all their stays. So REGCARD becomes a traveler and a record for all their journey and hotel stays. And from another part, hotels, they can proceed for free to the check-in, check-out of their clients. So REGCARD targets any type of hotel or accommodation establishment around the world who wants to enhance their hospitality strategies and optimize their upsells and cross-sells. So this is, if you have any question, don't hesitate.
They will come. Thank you very much, Selena. Thank you very much. It's a nice and warm introduction. Okay, please, Manuel, Feijoo, do your show, please. Present yourself. And...
Thank you, Felipe, and thank you, Travel Tech, for inviting me to join in this fantastic event. In Boldest, what we do is we create interactive maps for marketing. We are a technology company. We have developed a content management system that allows any of us without previous technology knowledge to create interactive maps that are they have a unique user experience. We work above Google Maps. We add layers of qualitative information. We create a new map, and these maps can be embedded on any website, digital campaign, or even create a simple landing page within our tool. The result is that the engagement really rockets. The number of time spent on the site is 3 times longer. The number of resources seen is multiplied by 7, and the CTR also at least is trebled. So in a situation where we have limited time to explore things, really need to deliver communication which is fast and engaging, and this is our expertise. Obviously, we are doing a very niche thing, but we expect to deliver our maps worldwide, and we are in this process. We are a startup in the 2nd year, and we already have good success stories, not only with destinations, but with hotels, with tour operators, DMCs. So anyway, we'll have time to talk about what we do in this coming meeting. Thanks again for the invitation. Okay.
I appreciate. Thank you very much for that. Okay. Fernando Morote, please let us know everything you can in this small space of time. Introduce yourself. Make yourself comfortable.
Thanks, Travel Tech, for inviting us for the first time to this event. Really looking forward. So we at Gimmonix, we are a travel tech company. We are working in the area of communication in between travel companies, right? So we are on the B2B world, looking at helping travel companies to connect and share their portfolios, inventories, and so on, and also looking at eliminating all the nuances that are within this connectivity. We are a 10 years old company, and looking right now at a huge expansion on a worldwide basis. When it comes to me, I've been on the travel industry for too long. Working basically on the bed bank arena. My experience is at Hotel Beds, Web Beds, and Yalago, the bed bank of the Emirates Group. So quite familiar when it comes to B2B connectivity and relationships and everything that is around the world of the online selling.
Such a complicated subject, this B2B after pandemics, right? It's a very sensible thing. Okay, so Jean-Jérôme Peytavi, c'est ça?
Yes, Felipe, yes, ça, yeah, absolutely. I can't hide from
I'm trying to exercise my French here. Please introduce yourself.
Thanks a lot, Felipe, for having us checking, in this panel and at Travel Tech. So what is Chekin? What we do is we automate the whole online check-in process for vacation rentals and hotels. We've been doing that for the past 4 or 5 years. And so we have many different features, from sending the information directly to the authorities to ID verification. We're connected to about 70 PMSs and also remote lock in order to have direct access for their guests. And really what Chekin started, it really started from the guest experience. So we have a very simple solution for guests that our clients propose to to their guests. In terms of numbers, we work with a little bit over 35,000 properties in 22 different countries, and we completed close to 5 million check-ins. I cannot wait to celebrate that 5 million numbers. It's gonna be very soon. In terms of myself, yes, as I'm French, but I'm French American. Actually lived in New York for over 20 years. I was always in the customer experience, on the customer experience side. CMO of museums, concert halls in New York, as well as in the hospitality business. So yeah, this is a little bit about what we do. Thanks a lot for having us.
Thank you. Okay. So let's go. Let's start the first round of questions so we can even discuss about it and interact, and we can ask questions to each other. And the first question is going to be to Danica Smith. Okay. Danica, how can hoteliers safeguard their guest experience amid staffing shortage? Such a
the golden question. Yeah, so just to provide a bit of context, at Review Pro, we have launched quarterly global benchmarking reports. So what we do is we have a sample size of 8,000 hotels globally across the different regions, and we're tracking 142 review sites 10 times a day. So we consolidate all of that data to show what's happening in terms of online reputation. And unfortunately, what we see at a global level, at a regional level, across the different sectors, and I'm sure the hoteliers listening in today will agree, we know staff shortage is having a negative impact on the guest experience. Semantics around wait queues is higher than it was negative regarding pre-pandemic levels. We know there's a staff shortage issue. We know we've managed to achieve some of the highest occupancy levels since pandemic, which is fantastic. However, we also see that the guest expectations are higher than what they were pre-pandemic. And what's happening is that's leaving a gap, the operational gap. So, Philippe, that's kind of set in the context of what's happening, why the guest experience is negatively impacted. So what can hotels and accommodation providers do to really safeguard the guest experience when you have staff shortage? The first thing is automation. Okay, automation in AI is no longer an innovative concept or a luxurious thing that the IT director needs to explore. It is an absolute necessity in 2023. Let's talk about the guest experience checking in. We know there's a rise of negative mentions around the check-in arrival experience, predominantly less staff. We carried out a survey, research with one of our clients, 30 hotels across Europe. 68% of all of their inbound messages coming through to their inbox via email or telephone and to their reservations came from the same 8 questions. What time is breakfast? How far is the airport? Do you have Wi-Fi? Now, let's put ourselves in the receptionist's shoes, where there used to be 3 of us. Now there's only 1. I have a queue in front of me. Is it really good use of my time to answer the phone 5 times a minute saying breakfast is from 8 to 10? That's where automation comes in. That's where, you have to have a chatbot, eliminate those frequently asked questions to free up your staff to focus on what matters most, the guest experience. That's reflected in online reputation. Hotels that manage to do this successfully, we see positive rise in sentiments around personality and attitude. Give repetitive tasks to automation, eliminate human error, eliminate translation issues, eliminate staff turnover and retention issues, and allow you to focus on what's important. Now, when it comes to how do hotels improve the guest experience with staff shortage? So at ReviewPro, we've always been about the guests for 10 years. However, in the last 12 months, the amount of conversations I've had with CEOs about the need to have happy staff. Happy staff equals happy guests. So it's no longer my priority is my guest experience. It's my priority is my staff motivation, my staff happiness, and that will translate to a good guest experience. We have a client, an independent hotel in Italy, that in 2022 really focused all of their efforts on their staff. They did fantastic initiatives like offered counseling to their staff. We know mental health in our industry is a huge thing post-COVID. They offered food packages, language training, and all these really cool initiatives. What was fascinating is how did that impact the business? In the period of 9 months, they went from number 59 on TripAdvisor to number 1, and it managed to achieve the highest ADRs. So it really is staff shortage. Unfortunately, that may be our reality for the next, quarter. And it's really how can hotels leverage technology, automation, and AI, eliminate the repetitive stuff, focus on your staff, keeping them happy, and that's naturally going to trickle through to a better guest experience. I mean, I could talk about this topic until the cows come home, but I'll pass it on to the rest of the panelists.
And this is one of the most complicated things because you are dealing with people, and people are not all the same. So even the experience, the comprehension, the humor is always something alive, and it's a very critical point. This review and guest experience, it's very complicated. I was
very real.
watching to another video the other day where you were explaining the importance of the speed over the quality of the response of the review, and how that matters. If you reply before in the first 24 hours, you can avoid a lot of possible problems that should go on around the process, let's say, and quite complicated.
Unfortunately, it is a real reality. I had a client call us the other day, and they had to close a whole floor off because they didn't have housekeepers. And they said, okay, ReviewPro, using your PMS filters, because we can track guest satisfaction, tell me what room should I prioritize to close? And they had 95% occupancy that day, and they had to close 20% of their room inventory. So please, every hoteliers, somebody give me good news. Tell me this is not going to be an issue for us in 2023. I did talk to a UK hotelier at WTM, and he said that unfortunately, because of the economy, because of inflation and rising costs, at his properties, staffing wasn't an issue because so many people needed a second job. So actually his F&B outlets, recruitment for the first time was looking positive. So, maybe as we enter next year, people will be, looking for more jobs, needing a second job, and that's going to eliminate the issue of staff shortages. I hope.
Danica, I have a question for you. You were mentioning earlier that most of the questions are around 8 topics. Mm-hmm. Is one of the topics like recommendations of what to do nearby?
It's not in the most frequently asked, but then that really depends on where you're looking at the guest stage. So this was just pre-arrival on reservations. I'm sure if you maybe look at the booking stage, many of our clients, that might be an influencer of what hotel, and it's really difficult. You've got 3 hotels in Berlin. How do I get that message to you quickly as a guest without you booking on booking.com, who have the ability to display that very well? So it wasn't one of the 8 frequently asked questions, but we know that is a frequently asked question that across the guest journey that influences that decision buying process significantly.
And eventually, if you provide that information in a nice way, in a neat way, it will really improve your reputation. It will improve the final assessment on your property, on your hotel, for sure. We have records of that, because in this way you are having like the first connection, guests coming from all over the world and inviting them to know better your area, filling them up like a bit more local. It really, really helps you to drive better reputation, especially, a best customer experience, which is what we are really looking for. So.
And securing the booking, I don't know if anyone saw Abigail's research, but 1 out of 20 bookings, 1 out of 5, 20% of bookings are now cancelled. So what happens is, yes, I book on booking.com, 5 hotels. I ask the same question, hey, what can you recommend? Whoever gets back to me gets a booking, the other 4 get a cancellation. We know that's what's happening. So again, you have to answer these kind of questions if not only you want the good guest experience, but if you want the guest in the first place.
Okay, thanks.
So I have one question, Danica. What can we do, or what is, let's say, Review Pro, or your opinion about how we could engage guests to leave more reviews? We would need one day on 100% reviews all the time. So just we can measure and be aware of everything. How you see these, I'm not going to call issue, but this specific subject?
Yeah, and it's a really difficult subject that not just hoteliers face, but we were at TripAdvisor Soho's office last week having this very conversation. As an industry, it's an issue for everybody. Review volume has not achieved the pre-pandemic rates, even though occupancy has. So the way that guests are leaving reviews is down year on year, even pre-pandemic 2019. It's also really difficult when we start looking at business segmentation mix changing. When corporates come back, that's going to hurt review volume even more. There are really good strategies that hotels can implement, for example, with TripAdvisor or Google, or if you're in Germany, Holiday Check, you can join what's called a review collection program. And what that means is via partners like Review Pro, as a guest, I complete my post-stay survey. And if I'm part of, for example, TripAdvisor's review collection program, it pre-populates a TripAdvisor review based on the survey I've just completed. And it means I can leave a review without having to have a login and without having to leave and go on to TripAdvisor and write that review. It's a fantastic way of increasing review volume. One of our clients, 13% of total review volume comes from that initiative. So my advice to hoteliers is have a look at your review distribution. We know in EMEA, Booking.com accounts for over 60% of total review volume. TripAdvisor only accounts for 7%. We know typically Booking.com index is a lot lower than TripAdvisor. So as a hotel chain or independent property, it's about looking at your review volume, your review mix, and seeing how can you shift it in the right way. And the good old-fashioned, training your front of house team at checkout, communicating why TripAdvisor is so important to your hotel and why, and encouraging it that way. Difficult for the luxurious segment, it's really difficult to try and leave somebody, and for the corporate segment, but we have some fantastic brands that manage to do it very well. But again, it comes back to the culture. If I am in reception, tell me, why is it important? Why is review volume important to my online reputation? I need to understand that first as an individual before I buy in and encourage that guest at checkout. So the hotels that do it well, it's a direct correlation to the GM who's running that hotel, who truly understands the importance of guest experience, guest intelligence, and online reputation.
That is very true. Okay, thank you. Let's go for the next question. Selena, Souah, how can technology improve the impact of the hotel industry on the environment? You're muted, Selena. We can't hear you.
Sorry. Thank you, Felipe,
Great.
for your question. So please, first, let me start with some numbers. So 87% of international travelers say that they want to travel while limiting impact on the environment. And 91% of the travelers today say that technology would increase their confidence to travel. So now climate change is a global issue that is affecting communities, lives, businesses, and economies all over the world. The hotel industry is not an exception, which leads to an increasing number of large hotel companies that are joining the commitment to sustainable development and environmental care. On the demand side, a customer's motivation is the maximization of satisfaction on a trip. So 81% of travelers want greater digital customer service from all hotel brands. While on the supply demand, tourists bring capital inflow, which leads to increased hotel business, both in a micro and micro levels. That's why the travel and tourism sector is one of the fastest growing industries, accounting for over 10% of the world's GDP. Due to the nature of their services and functions, hotels consume large amounts of energy, water, and non-durable goods, causing serious damage to the environment with their daily operations. For your information, a receptionist will use on average more than one entire tree of paper per year. This is why many hotels have adopted a variety of green practice, for example, to save water and energy and reduce solid waste. Hotels are more likely to choose recycled products and leave the choice to the customer to watch and change supplies, such as towels or bed sheets. We all know that many factors can significantly influence customer satisfaction. Tourists are likely to maximize the satisfaction by choosing destinations that provide a good environment, room price, hotel location, service quality, environmental initiative, because customers are more and more concerned about climate change related problems and therefore put more effort in eco-friendly activities in their daily life, seeking eco-friendly products and services to contribute towards environmental sustainability. So 70% of global travelers are more likely to book an eco-friendly accommodation, whether they're looking for a sustainable stay or not. When my marketing department asks to travelers which of the hotel technologies or services popularized during the pandemic would they most see permanently adopted over the next 3 years, the three main answers are for the contactless check-in, check-out, for the contactless payments, and for the mobile guest services. Moreover, 70% of millennials are likely to book holiday accommodation using a tech amenity, like mobile payments, smart TVs, or contactless entry. Concerning REGCARD.com, the data includes all information related to travelers in order to proceed to their online express check-in, online express checkout, but also their preferences, which allows a hotel to meet and exceed customers' expectations. When using REGCARD, hotels can not only reduce their waste of paper considerably by digitalizing the check-in and checkout process, but also reduce waste according to the client's preferences by offering options that match their expectation and eliminating products or services they don't want or don't need. So if you have some questions, I'm free to answer. Thank you.
Such another dedicated team, which is very present nowadays. And so if someone has any comment, any questions, or any observation about what Selena said, please feel free.
let me just, if you have some intel about it. We've seen that, well, historically speaking, there was a lot of paperwork to fill in, check-in, check-out, surveys, all of these. We've seen with Danica how surveys are kind of moving towards automation. Well, not automation, but digitalization, I would say, and removing all these papers and all of that. How is the rest of the processes? What is the actual trend? So you mentioned that, yeah, some of them are, but are we really moving towards a paperless hotel experience, or there is still a long way to go?
Yes. So there's still a long way to go for sure, Fernando. But this is, I mean, I think that's why I mentioned millennials. I think it's going to be a long process, because even with some hotels of our clients, some hotels, they doing check-in, check-out with our system, but it's not automatic. So I think it's going to be a long way to go. That's why also we're doing bills online as well. So for the checkout, hotels, they can send the bills to the clients to pay online. There's still a long way to go, but that's why some digital technology exists to go over paper.
Interesting.
Yeah. I have a comment and maybe also a question is, with the rise of energy prices, I mean, the energy consumption in hotels, is quite massive. So everybody is trying to cut back, which in a way is a good thing, right? Would someone appear to know what is like the percentage in terms of like in sustainability, like the energy consumption versus the consumption of paper? Because it seems to me that having lights all the time, 24/7, and things like that in certain hotels, I mean, the consumption is just massive, and the trend is definitely to cut that, which I think is a significant benefit to the environment, especially long term. I mean, that's half a comment, half a question, I guess.
I think it's a comment. Sorry, I think it's a comment. For me, especially, it's a comment.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say, like, one of the benefits outside of sustainability of going paperless and moving to digitalization in the context of staff shortage is that you eliminate human error. Anything that requires a pen and paper, with a stressed colleague, results in issues, whether that's entering an email address incorrectly in the PMS, or saying room 212 needs water and actually it was 215. So that's also a huge benefit both to the hotel and the guest of why hotels need to digitalize certain processes, like the check-in process, like digital dine, and the huge benefits that has, not just sustainability driven.
And I have another question. Is how do you feel about the greenwashing? Because everybody's now talking about sustainable practices, and okay, yeah, let's agree that if we want to save energy, for instance, it's great. We need it, but that will require a huge investment on the property, and so obviously everybody jumps on this wave of the sustainability. How do you filter what is genuine, what is just a fad? How do you see that happening, and how is the way?
Can I add a point to your question? So just you answer just in one sentence. For example, we know it's such a complicated subject and very attached to government activities and actions too. So how this issue is, if you could let us know, since you have more experience, how the most transparent, real situation about that on the hotel industry you could explain to us, how the most raw and real situation you see, which is true about what we are fighting against it or not.
Yeah, this is a very good point. Thank you, Jose Manuel and Felipe. I wanted to add for the question of Fernando as well. Like, we're doing REGCARD, but we can observe with my team that it's really, the hotels are really using the preferences. The preferences instead of checking, checkout, and paper. Because with those preferences, and they can chat directly to the clients, to the travelers. So when you're talking about washing, and this is kind of options travelers they can propose directly to the hotel. So when I look the whole picture, is really like having direct interaction with the travelers and the hotels. And since the interaction, there is confidence, because when you go into the hotel, you have to go to the desk to speak with the concierge, with the receptionist. But with this link, I think this link is really precious. That's why we integrate a chat. That's why we integrate preferences. That's why REGCARD is like a social media more than check-in, check-out. I don't know if I answer to your question, but
yeah. I think this is still a problem of infrastructure in the world. So it's super complicated, and it's gonna take a lot of time, because even sometimes, and most of times, if you are willing to change, or if you want to change and you want to invest, it doesn't depend 100% on only your initiative. So it's still, I don't know, we have to look at carefully to that,
And across the stakeholders as well, if I can add here, what we've seen in the industry is some of our clients, implement such fantastic initiatives, sustainability initiatives, but haven't necessarily thought that through operationally. The worst thing you can do is offer your guests the ability to opt in or opt out of housekeeping, and you put that lovely spin on it. And then you say, I'm opting out, and housekeeper knocks on your door at 7 a.m. Housekeeping. So, we were talking at WTM, one of our clients, Attitude Hotels, they've went completely plastic free, a fantastic initiative. But he was talking about, Vincent, the COO, check them out on their website and how they've, done the whole sustainability thing to improve their business metrics as well. But he was saying, like, he had to remove 250 items from the rooms. So, like, concept-wise, like, what do you do with your minibars if you can't have anything in your minibar? How does that impact the guest experience? So I think it's really important when, whether it is on the pre-arrival, digitalizing check-in, check-out, or removing plastics from your room, you need to involve all stakeholders across the business, and you really need to think about each scenario right the way through, because what we've seen on our side is that sustainability is certainly a key driver in choosing your hotel, but it's not an element that they're willing to pay more. Same as cleanliness. It's a necessity. I want my hotel to be sustainable, but am I going to pay for it more? No. Just like I'm not going to pay for a clean hotel. So that how much can you push it, the guest experience, it's a very, very fine line. I think the industry's trying to find out, and I think that is brand specific as well, on how far you take that story of sustainability and make it authentic.
And I think one of the first real informations we will be able to trust when all this is starting to real changing is from guests.
Mm-hmm.
From reviews. So that's the main important thermometer.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of online reputation, so in that sample size of just under 8,000 hotels, year to date, sustainability, physical mentions accounted for less than 3%. So it's not something that guests are talking about across the online reviews yet, anyway.
I think it is still a problem that people talk a lot about it. We are all starting to get concerned about it after pandemics, because it seems that we were more focused, everybody around the globe, to the same thing. And probably now we start taking some real actions about it. But, well, I'm from Brazil, and you know how complicated that is. And yeah, Okay, so does anyone have any other question, any comment, an observation? Can I go? Okay, now it's Jose Manuel Feijoo. If we talk more and more about seeking real and meaningful experience when traveling, what type of digitalization is needed, and what is a fact?
Okay, well, how can I say this? If there's something in common for all of us, is that we don't have time. That's the most precious thing that we have. And nowadays we are bombarded with more content and more content and more content. So our attention span is really narrowing. So, we've been talking for the last half an hour for fantastic tools. That's all of them are trying to improve the customer experience, the guest experience, but are completely different from each other. So in our case, we're trying to simplify the whole process, of the content and how to access the information through the maps. So a basic question, simple question: where am I going? What is nearby? What can I do there? So we usually rely on maps. So we try to, through maps, to make that information very accessible and simple. So and try to clarify all that content and to make it available immediately, not only for hotels but for the whole experience, for destinations, for DMOs, which was our original business model, but also tour operators, your multi-day trips, what are going to be doing over the next 5 days, 7 days. And like in my background, you have a map, a circuit, and through an engaging map, it's very easy to explore that information. So what we say is that content is king, but the absolute queen is the engagement. And that's what we try to do. Simplify the access to that information. If you do it in a beautiful way, in a nice way, that can be enticing. So people eventually will spend more time on your content, will know better your offer, and eventually improve the guest experience. In our case, we use web technology, so there is no friction. All of us know how to use a web browser on our desktop, on our mobile. And then if it's linked to Google Maps, it means that if you want to reach one place, just one click takes you there. Everything very simple and smooth. So we believe in this kind of digital transformation, something that simplifies the whole process, not only for the final user, but also for the brand owner that already have a lot of content, a lot of digital assets, and present it in a new way through maps. You can make it more engaging. Because what we found every day, and maybe you can agree or not with me, is that most of the content that exists online, it really is a heritage of the past, of the old catalog. So the printed media that has been taken into a digital space, so it's not really engaging. There's a lot of breakdowns on the whole customer journey when you are experiencing online. And that's what we try to do, to simplify that process. And we're finding, not only with hotels, but as we say, with destination, with tour operators, even with media, that the time that people spend on the content, it really rockets, and that brings a lot of opportunity for converting that information and that knowledge into eventually to make money out of it with reservations. So yes, the type of digital transformation we need, it has to be frictionless, simple, easy to access, avoid downloading things, avoid to scatter information around different places, put it together and show it nicely. This is the type of digital transformation that we believe in. And of course, you can incorporate, from these metrics that you were mentioning earlier, in terms of sustainability, reputation. All of this can be even integrated very easily in the maps and as a confirmation of what you are experiencing. So that would be my answer.
So I think if there was anyone who would like to do some comments, I have probably a comment to do, which I believe we are in an era where it was never that sophisticated as we learned how to pay attention to the process instead of just starting beginning, or how sophisticated can be a path from point A to point B. Because absolutely, you can add infinite values or whatever to bring value to people, to take it out or to help them out. And it's very interesting how sophisticated that is. It's getting. Okay. Thanks, Jose. Does anyone have any other question, any comment? I'm gonna fall. Okay. Fernando Morote. The B2B landscape and how adapt communication to reach the end customer. Please. Right. Let me. Okay. I'm gonna put my mute here.
I'm gonna unmute myself. That will help. So something that we've seen, and again, I'm kind of having a long journey on the B2B, especially focused on accommodation, is how different travel segments are facing what is the B2B reach, the B2C reach to their customer, right? When you get into an airplane, a seat booking, it doesn't really matter with whom you are making the booking at. At the end, you feel that once you get into the plane, you are a customer of the airline, right? And you're going to get the service that the airline is used to provide, regardless where have you booked. Regardless, you booked in the official website, through an OTA, a tour operator, whatever it is, right? As long as you are using a scheduled flight, you are going to get the same service when it comes to the plane. And this is something that we've seen during the years, that is not happening exactly the same when it comes to accommodation, right? So there are clear retention programs and fidelization programs when it comes to the guests from the hotel when they sell direct. But at the moment that you start using intermediation and so on, then it's kind of a secondary type of client, right? So yes, you are giving all your free Wi-Fi and whatever it is if the client has booked in your website. But if they book it through a tour operator or through an OTA, Expedia, whatever it is, it's kind of they are not as an important client. And this is somehow that something that I believe the accommodation arena market still has a lot to improve in when it comes to customer engagement, right? If you are a good customer of a hotel chain, you're expecting to receive, if you're a repeating customer, you're expecting to receive a similar service, similar amenities, similar package, regardless of where you're booking at, right? Because certain times it's your company booking it for you, certain times it's going to be yourself on a business trip with the family. But at the end, you feel that you are kind of set aside if it's not the original, the official website, right? And we all understand that hotel chains are kind of focusing a lot and doing a lot of marketing on direct sales, but somehow there are very few that can survive only with direct sales. And it's kind of, when you look at, I would say 99% of the hotels, they are reliant on third-party sales. How the third-party customer is not treated with the same value as the direct one, right? When it comes to volumes and so on. Then kind of linking a bit with what the B2B environment is and how many players are on the chain. It's kind of sometimes it is a bit of ridiculous to when you understand how many intermediaries are within the chain, and this is where the complication comes as well, right? For the airlines, going back to my simile, for the airlines, it's kind of easy to identify the final customer because there is a check-in process that normally takes in advance, when you are able to put all your details to identify yourself, so the airline know who it is, who you are. And when you sit on this Emirates plane for this long distance flight, the hostess knows who you are, what your frequency of flight, and so on and so forth. While hoteliers doesn't kind of provide these early booking stages, early check-in stages before departing, when you come. And I will be moving to what Selena was talking before, and be Danica as well, kind of make seamless the check-in process at the hotel, making it easier, having already your profile created to do reviews and so on and so forth, right? So for me, it's kind of interesting how these the two fundamental parts of a trip, that is flying and staying, are not in sync at all when it comes to how to deal with the final customer, how to deal with the people that is finally going to use your services.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can jump in here, because I think Fernando raises so many good points, and this is, as an ex-hotel marketing manager, I think 2023 is so exciting when we look at the role of communication across the guest journey. What we have some clients that, you know, within Review Pro, you can send out communication via WhatsApp, SMS, and email, and you can have cascaded rules. That's amazing. However, has anybody online or listened in ever checked into a hotel via WhatsApp? So what we're doing and what the industry is doing is so innovative. So we have clients that have the technology, the processes to be able to send out a WhatsApp message and have you check in. The next question is, okay, Danica, do I send it to the corporates at 7 a.m. and leisures at 11 a.m. or is it 11:30? There's so many different variables now when it comes to guest communication, whether it's B2B or B2C, that as an industry, it's completely new. We're talking to WhatsApp, you know, their focus B2B business is on retail. It's not even on our industry. And we're like knocking on their door saying, hello, hoteliers are innovative. We're ready to go. And I think that the next quarter, the next 2 quarters is going to be sharing best practices. Like, how do we move away from the airlines completely nailing it? You know, they did it with revenue management. They did it with upsell revenues. It's like, come on, hoteliers, we can do it too. The next thing that leads to is the touch points. We were in Amsterdam with a very famous OTA and a very large client of ours to talk about the number of touch points in the guest journey. Great, I can now send you a WhatsApp message to do your check-in online. But if I've booked on an OTA for a one-night stay, is 21 touch points really achievable and realistic? So that's the next discussion the industry has to have. And then as an owner, it's like, who owns this? Is it my marketing? Is it my ops? Is it IT? So I think like travel tech, having these conversations is so important to the industry because nobody knows what success looks like. And that's, you know, I can't wait for this time next year to hopefully share case studies of what, you know, does get the best open rates and the best online converted check-in with the best reviews afterwards. But right now it's also new to all of us. On top of hoteliers not really having the headspace or strategic time to think about this, it's going to fall to us vendors to really support the industry and guide and just start off small and grow. We have a client in the Maldives that, you know, when I land in Mali, I get a WhatsApp message if I'm from Europe, an SMS from the US to say, hey, Danica, your seaplane arrives at this time. Like, how cool is that for the guest experience? But to get there, it's taken 12 months of a lot of testing and a lot of failing as well. So I think this whole topic around guest communication, whether it's B2B or B2C, then also, like, what is B2B and B2C anymore? Like, you know, we all were in London. Yeah, sorry.
We also have the so many B2B players all being very jealous of customer data, right? It is true that we have GDPR in place and there has to be a lot of customer protection. But sometimes all of these customer protection and protectiveness of who owns the customer, it goes totally against the customer experience, right? Yeah. Because you will hardly get a phone number of an email address for whoever has booked the tour, hotel from a bed bank, right? Because the tour operator, the travel agent doesn't want to give it, the tour operator doesn't want to give it, the bed bank doesn't even wants to receive it because of GDPR issues, right? Much less sending it to the hotel that will be the one that is actually interested of being able to reach the customer in advance and so on, right? And it's somehow kind of understandable, because at some point we know that hotels are going to contact directly later on customers and so on. But at the same time, it's kind of inevitable, because the clients are going to be at the hotel, and they're going to be asked for their emails and their phone numbers. And at the end, we are all not even reading at the long check-in process that it say, yeah, we can communicate with you here, right? So somehow we are in an industry that when it comes to information of the a point of contact more than information about the traveler to the hotelier are kind of difficult to reach before the client steps in at the hotel, right? And this is where ourselves within the industry are not making it either easier for a beautiful journey like from the very beginning, right? So, the typical cycle of the booking that is thinking about it, preparation, booking, traveling, staying, and after that remembering, right? So when it comes to accommodation, we are kind of limiting the scope of how the hotels can interact with their customer, with their guests, till
No, I
they
have to
are
disagree. I have to disagree. That is the very opposite of what us and many other vendors in the industry are doing. We're trying to do the exact opposite. We're trying to make it easy to have a seamless guest experience with guest comms. An example is inbound communication. Open up your Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, have it promoted on your website, on, in your room, and allow guests to contact you via Facebook, via Instagram. That's enhancing the guest experience. It's doing the complete opposite. So sorry, Fernando, but I have to disagree. There's some very cool initiatives that vendors are doing exactly that, helping the guest experience and providing communication that supports that throughout, whether it's from the booking looking right the way to the post day. Well, that's what we're doing anyway. And I know many others are doing very well.
I believe there is. I'm not saying this is what hoteliers are looking at. I'm saying that the rest of the intermediaries between the hotelier and the final customer are where the difficulties are, right? Is where it's difficult to get that information. The hoteliers are having difficulties to get that information from the final customers, because hoteliers receive a booking from a tour operator. They have a name, nationality at the most. That's it. That's the only information that they receive. So it really has to be a process started by the final customer, if they are, in order to enable all these amazing experience since the very beginning, right? The intermediaries, we are kind of not promoting this kind of journey experience by limiting all the data to be shared.
What I believe I was, once you mentioned before, Fernando, it gets to be ridiculous the amount of points you have since the beginning to the end, and there's a lot of points. That's true. One thing that I was reading the other day about, have you heard about Iravolk? She was reading a problem around our industry, which is a confusion between the stakeholders, and it's complicated, all this, because of the fragmentation of our industry. If we are comparing, let's say, flights with hotels, it's much complicated because you have lots of different types of possibilities of on the hotel industry other than the aircraft industry. So she was mentioning about it, and it's gonna be way more complicated than we think, because of this, let's say, tripod of the confusion of the stakeholders, and because people have different interests. And well, let's see how that's gonna.
I don't know. Obviously, when you look at the booking chain, it can be as complicated that the OTA. I mean, it can be very simple, right? You have your accommodation original, the website of the hotel serving directly to the customer. That's the easiest way, right? The shorter way. But when you look at
theoretically,
no, well, easy one, let's say the easiest one, right?
Yeah.
When you look at the most complicated one, and starting from the hotel, you have the hotel, you have the DMC, you have a bed bank that is buying from the DSC, you have a tour operator that is buying from the bed bank, then travel agent, and luckily, finally, the final customer. Not mentioning that in most of these communications, you have tech platforms like ours that are helping to do all these interactions, right? So you may have between 9-10 players in the middle to fulfill a simple accommodation booking, right? And this is what is adding complexity to the booking journey. I'm not saying that in the airline there is not such a complicated journey, but what really helps a lot is the need of doing online check-in before departure, right? And this is, for me, is the key differentiator, that at the end we are facilitating, and somehow the industry is kind of pushing always the customer to provide their details before departure, right? And this is where I see the huge difference between the two industries. That accommodation is still, it's enough. I'm not saying that is what they want to, right? Definitely they don't, but it still is enough as a stepping into a hotel to start the check-in process, right? And for me, this is the huge difference between the two scenarios, that one starts a couple of days before the booking starts, while the other when the booking has already started and you already arrived to the destination.
Okay. I had another comment here, but you already replied to it.
Okay.
Okay, so let's follow here. Jean-Jérôme Peytavi, how has the online check-in evolved, and where is it going?
Yeah, thanks a lot for that. Well, just I think it's very interesting to come back to what Fernando and Danica were saying on the check-in process, because we've been talking a lot about the airline industry here and about hotels. And it's true that the airline industry started online checking way before hotels, right? I mean, you go to an airport today, do you really want to see someone on the check-in? I mean, probably not. You want to go to do it 24 hours before. You want to make sure you have your seat, and you want to go as fast as possible, in the airplane. So the check-in, airline industry has been doing that for quite a while, and I think that the adoption on the hotel side has exponentially increased since the pandemic. So I think this is another fact. Like 75%, especially on millennials, prefer to book an accommodation with an online check-in. They don't want to come after a flight or after travel, 5-10 hour travel, to sit on a line in a queue to get their key and go to the room. I think that there is something really said about the customer and the guest adoption on the online check-in. I think also, and that's really a point that Danica was making before, with staffing issues. It's also started to, and the automation of tasks. And the online check-in is, started to help operations, meaning it can definitely increase efficiency within the operation of hotels. Why in Spain someone would send manually every day information to the authorities when that can be done automatically, right? Why would you do that? Why would you in France do the tourist tax while you have software that can do it automatically for you? Those repeated tasks, that's how it started from the online check-in. Help the operation, help efficiency, decrease cost. The interesting aspect is we came from that to a revenue model at the check-in process. What does that mean? And same thing, we can continue to compare with the airline industry in terms of upselling. It can be super annoying when you're checking with the airline. Do you want that insurance? Is your bag like this, or are you gonna pay $20 more because your bag is oversized? So the whole thing, in terms of upselling, cross-selling, the airline's doing fairly well. Do you want to rent a car? And now so it became for hotels and vacation rentals, and it became from an operations strategy to the online check-in to a revenue side of things, which also enhance the guest experience. I want to go into my room 3 hours before. If I do that at the check-in process, I'm gonna pay €6. Boom, everybody is happy. The hotel knows that before. The guests know that I'm going to have my room 3 hours before, and I'm gonna pay for that. Everybody, it's a win-win-win situation. On top of the cross-selling, upselling, I think, I don't know who mentioned experiences a little bit. I think that was Danica. I think experiences, what am I gonna do? Let's say, I mean, I'm based in Barcelona, and let's say I'm a family of 4 and I am staying near the Sagrada Familia. At the check-in process, if I have that ability to also buy experiences before my arrival, that's also a plus on the guest side. So I think that we really started with the operation side. It's going to the revenue and guest experience, which is really key in what we're proposing. So there's really an evolution, and to come back to what I was saying, I think the adoption is key. And today, guests want to do that process online. Now, I want to come back to what was said a little bit, just to complete my thought, is, in terms of communication to, hey, how many touch points do we have? And I think that's actually a fascinating topic, because it's a very complex one, because it needs to have segmentation within the guest. For example, I just want to receive one communication. I don't want to be bothered. I have so many emails, WhatsApp. And by the way, if I'm from the US, I want an SMS. If I'm from Spain, I want a WhatsApp. If I'm from certain other countries, I want an email. So like there is the mode of communication, but the number of touch points is actually critical. And I'm extremely excited, a little bit like Danica was saying, I'm extremely excited to see where it's going. How can we segment, and how can we better personalize the experience of the guest through that number of touch points and what they are? And I think that's where the industry, with the check-in and with communication, is gonna need to go, is on personalization, to have really then those reviews and the guest to be able to come back. All those referrals, they're key, obviously. There's reviews, but we've not talked about referrals. Hey, I stayed at that particular hotel. I had a fantastic experience. You're going there, you should stay there. Referral is also like really key. So anyway, that's a little bit leadway, but I just wanted to mention those points on where the check-in is also going, and the evolution for the past few years.
Yeah, and as we all know, the check-in is such a pressure point, such a complicated point where you can avoid or probably create problems. And if you enlarge it during the prior to arriving, you can sophisticate it and find out the expectations and try to do whatever is necessary to improve the guest experience. You have more time. You can almost plan and avoid future possible predictable problems. Mm-hmm. And that's very important. That's true.
And I think it's about, like, when we talk about automation, having the flexibility, and that's also the benefit of digitalization and not paper. If we take check-in and check-out, so many hotels have completely changed their business mix. We had a group of UK hotels, predominantly corporate, international corporate travelers. What happened in 2021, 2022, all of a sudden on their online reputation and guest survey sentiment, check-in was a real issue within that guest segment. Why? Because all of a sudden these UK hotels were now attracting domestic travelers. What was a pain point for them was, I'm in the UK, I'm from London, and I'm going to stay at a hotel in Bath for the weekend, and it asked me for my passport details. I don't know my passport details. I don't have to have my passport details as a legal requirement. That's frustrating me. So again, it's about by then having automated check-in, digitalization, and coming back to segmentation. I can, within our stay product, you can say, okay, hide the passport field to all UK clients staying at my UK property during check-in. And that flexibility, because let's face it, who knows what their business segment is going to look like next year? Corporate leisure, is China going to open up again? It's going to change so many London hotels, for example, when that market opens up. So I think when we're looking at digitalization, that flexibility is so key.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, Jean-Jérôme, sorry for my ignorance, but I would like to know, is it Chekin doing in white label with hotels? Or can any travelers can directly check in on your system, on your website?
Yeah, so no, it's a great question. No, what we have is we have a solution for hotels to provide to guests. So the guest is checking in, through online, basically through the product that we propose and that we offer to our customers. So now in term of white label, I mean, it's highly customized with the logo of the hotels. We don't, honestly, I don't really care that JJ is going to use check-in, staying in that hotel. What's important is the seamless of the flow. So it's very important, I think a few of us made that point, that actually like the flow between, there's so many tech companies, there's so many, like the OTAs and the PMSs and the check-in online and the REGCARD and the review, and I mean it's so many that for the end guest, what's very important is they don't need to see check-in. They need to know that the hotel actually provide that best experience to them.
Yes, and this is a bit the different with REGCARD, and this is interesting what Fernando said as well about the B2B, the B2C, because REGCARD is targeting travelers and a hotel at the same time. So travelers can already check in directly to REGCARD. So it's like a B2B and a B2C.
Yeah.
So for the communication is
that's
the best team ever.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the more options the client, the guest, the user, or whoever is going to buy something, be a hotel, travel industry, e-commerce, the more options you have to sophisticate your purchase, your experience, you will use it. And the company that offer that must be aware and pay attention to that, because people who, and users and guests who fill in fields, they are really willing and expecting to have some attention on it if the option was given to them. Yeah. Great. Okay, let me see other questions here. And if you could comment, Jean, for example, how has over this industry the check-in evolved from the last, let's say, 15 years, both online or offline?
Well, 15 years, I'm not sure that people were really checking in online. So I think it was highly physical. Look, what we've seen, we're at Chekin, we're in business for 5 years. We're still a startup, but we've accomplished a certain number of check-ins, and what we've seen is that break with the pandemic. Meaning that there is a pre-pandemic type of check-in that people still, were not exactly sure if they needed to go online or not. And there is this pandemic where actually as I mentioned, the adoption really went through the roof. And I think this is where also companies and started really proposing products that are way more advanced today than they were 3-5 years ago. I think that the level of product that are on the market, not only us, by the way, I think that but in general, the level of for hotels, they have great products today to propose to their guests. and once again to enhance the guest experience. But I think that those products were really have really been developed at a higher level of expectations only for the past 2, 3, 4 years. I think that it's exponential what you can do at the check-in today at a hotel compared to what you could do before. And I think that's going in the right direction, frankly. But all of that is linked to the adoption. At the end of the day, if no one wants to use the online check-in, it's going to be hard. But the adoption really is pushing companies like us to do better and to propose a better product.
That's true. Yeah. And how can we do to have a bigger attention from the guests with all this?
Yeah. And what's the priority? So when we look at online check-in adoption, and in the concept of, okay, I want to send a WeChat message to my Chinese travelers when they travel again, to give them the option to check in online, or WhatsApp. But then, so that's coming from my IT or my ops director, and I'm the CEO. But then I've got my chief commercial officer telling me they want to send an upsell initiative. You can't put two messages in the same WhatsApp. Nobody's going to click on the second link, or the same email, or the same SMS. So it's like, how, as a CEO of a hotel group, what's my priority? Is it streamline the check-in process, or is it to drive incremental revenues? And I think that conflict is happening.
I completely agree with you. Now, I think you can do both within the same flow.
Yeah,
that's what we do. So, for example, there are priorities in Spain. For example, you need to send to the authorities. Like, this is a non-negotiable. You need to do that.
Yeah.
Other countries, they really want to do ID verification. We propose that with biometric match. And especially in the UK and the US, like our clients, they are really within that feature. They want to know if the person who's staying is actually the person who is reserving the room. So okay. It's so it really depends. I think there's a little bit of culture now within the same flow. It can, if the flow is easy and done, it's seamless. Putting a little bit of sell at the end is not the end of the world. You can bypass it with a click. So I really think that within the same flow, you can accomplish different things. And look, like the general, we time a lot of our check-in online. For us, it needs to be less than a minute. It's very important. The same thing with an airline. No frustration. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to reserve that car, you try bypass it, and that's fine. So I think you can accomplish that within the same flow. You said something, Danica, before, which is, and I think that's Fernando too, like the number of touch points. I'm very worried about the number of touch points, because I think the more touch points you have, the less they're effective. So it's better to I think to have personally to have less touch points. Also, what's important for the check-in, when do you send it? 24 hours, 48 hours, a week before? It might depend if it's an international traveler. It might depend if it's a family. It might depend.
Yeah.
So all of that is a segmentation that we're talking.
Everything matters, no?
I think. And that's fascinating to me. That's fascinating, because this is exactly why, in the world of data, and I'm always very happy when the industry is working together to make the whole industry better, because the reality is solving that is going to be better for everyone. So.
Yeah. Because now what the industry is doing is taking typical CRM and email marketing variables. What's my best open rate? What's the best time? But bringing that into an operational world, digitalized check-in. And I think that shift is really fascinating. Yeah. Mm-hmm. An exciting time for the industry.
I agree.
What I think it's really complicated. It's too many things, such for the hotelier, for the guests to learn, to do, to process, and everything, because even if I go to the supermarket and buy something, come back, if I want to do a trip, I book a flight and I book a hotel and come back, it's a whole different experience. But it's so many things you add on the path, on the user path, to buy, to check, to see that it's impossible not to be complicated, all this process. And during all that, the evolving of technology and all the things we can do, but we still have to polish lots of things.
Yeah,
and until this time, the guest and the user will pay the price because it's not accurate. So it's such a challenge. It's such a challenge.
And Felipe, sorry, Danica.
No, I was just going to say, but if you stay core as a hotelier and put guest experience as the objective, then that eliminates the noise. It doesn't overwhelm. You know, so like if you're looking at a pre-arrival upsell initiative, don't just look at the revenue as success. Like, no, did that improve your guest experience or not? How did that operationally? So I think when it comes to digitalizing the guest journey, and, you know, we talk about check-in. What about, you know, when we look at F&B and digitalizing that, and how do I communicate about F&B online dining? Whatever it is, I think as hoteliers, we just need to be like, how do I monitor, test, and make sure this impacts positively the guest experience? And then the rest hopefully will fall into place. And I think we lost our way as an industry in 2021. You know, look at chatbot and how so many hotels were like, oh, I can integrate with my booking engine, great, and completely bombarded, you know, the pre-arrival revenue scene and upsells. And then there were so many negative TripAdvisor reviews where the staff couldn't deliver the champagne, you know, or, you know, even the occupancy levels. So it is still like, you know, it's not that overcomplicated. We're here to make guests happy. It's still the same ethos as it was 50 years ago, as it will be in 50 years' time. We just have better tools, you know, to...
A little more complicated as well.
It's why you need conversations.
And at the end, Felipe, because we are also having many players during looking at this upsell, cross-sell, right? It's not only the hotelier that is going to contact the guest. It's going
everybody wants to.
It's going to be the OTA with the package that is going to try to sell tours in destination, right? Is the airline that will keep emailing the customer like, oh, don't remember that on your return flight, you may be upgraded, blah blah. So we will have during the journey at least 3 active players in there trying to enhance the customer journey, right? Well, and at the end to increase the revenues, right? So as you said, I don't think there is a fear of forgetting doing something. There is a fear of being told too much what to try to do, right?
And
obviously in our case, we are a startup and less than 2 years old, and working with hotels only for the last few months. But I was mentioning earlier, we are fed up of being bombarded for information from sources that we don't really want. Okay. So in the case of hotels, you know, when you are dealing directly with your final consumer, you say, okay, how can I make the most of this consumer, my guest? How can I improve their experience, and then try to sell additional services? Okay, and it's simple and it's fair enough. And that's the reason why we are talking to some of the largest chain of hotels in Spain, and they all of them, they want that. And one of the easiest ways of improving the customer experience is, you know, showing them, allowing them to explore on their own without being bombarded about what to do nearby. And if you can add some services and get money out of it, it's natural, it's simple. Why? Because you're supplying a tool that is free for them and it adds value without a transaction nature. Eventually, there can be a transaction. Thank you very much. Why not? But you're allowing them, you're giving them a tool that is fun and is adding value. But also we're working in Catalonia, for instance, with the second largest destination in Catalonia, where DMO has generated interactive maps for a lot of themes, and, you know, cycling, hiking, culture, you know, you name it, and allowing to all the hotels in town to have a connection with these maps. So from the beginning, since they receive a booking, they can supply this information. Do you want to know what to do in Lloret? You know, are you interested in hiking? So people explore at their own. So before arrival into destination, you already have information if you want to explore it. And once you are in the destination, you have your display on the hotel, again, giving the access to this tool that you can opt in or just ignore it, simplifying the whole process. When you are preparing your trip, probably doing it through a desktop from your hometown, and once there you have a connection through a mobile, very easy without downloading anything. So you are allowing people to to get a better customer experience if they want, and if they don't want, it's fine. So that's our experience, our humble maps. They're trying to simplify the whole process, because at the end of the day, I want to make the most of my trip. What can I do in Barcelona, if I'm there for 3 days? If I receive suggestions that are, valuable, why not? So this is our experience. As we said, we're a quite new company, but this is a good success stories that we're experiencing, and I think is worth sharing. But again, obviously all of us have wonderful tools, but sometimes we are bombarding users with so many things that I think is a bit too much, and people just get fed up of all of us.
I think you first of all, I think you have a great product. So congratulations to you. And I think you mentioned something. I'm just going to be 1 second on a point, which is the guest. You make the point of guest experience and revenue, right? And I think that guest experience is much more important long term. Long term, there is no, and you see other industries are really focusing on guest experience more than immediate revenue, because that's true. You could probably have that bump short term on the revenue side, but on the long term, you're going to kill your business. So I think the guest experience is much more important long term. So
it's not just long term; it's short term. Like if on Friday upsell X amount of revenues, great. Saturday the guest experience terrible, and I have 5 negative reviews on Sunday. I'm not profitable by that Monday. Nobody's going to book.
For sure, but when I say long term, it's term of return.
And I'm
sorry,
Selena. No, Danica, you can go.
Over to you. I'm talking too much.
That's why I wanted to add something about what Jose Manuel said, and I think that's why REGCARD had this courage to do this big challenge. It's because we wanted the traveler to be in the center. That means the traveler to decide where he want to check in, and having one place where all the hotels can come and not all the information of hotels come to them. So I think that's why we made this challenge to put the traveler in front, the traveler who decide where he want to check in, already can tell to the hotels, okay, I like this, I don't like this, I want this, I don't want this. It's a big challenge, but I think that's why we made it like this.
Okay. And I think it depends on the channel itself. So going back to JJ's comments earlier, I mean, I ask you online, guys, does anybody have an unopened WhatsApp message on their phone? If it's WhatsApp, it's not spam. I'm going to open it, How long will that last? So I think it's not necessarily like what JJ said, it's about, what is the communication, the actual point of the communication, who owns it, what's the objective, how's it sent, and to who. And by the time we figure it all out, we'll probably have to change it again, because Instagram might start opening up something else. So, and I think that's, look what happened to email versus WhatsApp. Who knows, in 6 months' time, we might have 50 unread WhatsApp messages on our phone. But right now, I guarantee it's 0 for all of us.
It's very interesting that, Danica, because I think I'm a believer that the human being is loyal to, we are loyal to our needs. That's the only thing, probably. And during the journey of any consumption we need end to end, we will pay attention, or we will get done, or we will do what we need, or what we have to do to access something else. So I think our role, for example, for us, it looks, or it seems a little not so easy, because this is not an easy industry we're talking about, distribution and all this. Our main role will be to help hoteliers to understand all this, because we are living in this transaction area where I can easily make a purchase right here, and I can use all of us here, and all of us need a review. All of us need a touch. We'll have a touch point, and we'll have probably a noise during the process. And it's complicated because now the hotelier has, a couple of weeks ago, we've been to Cancun, and we were talking about this, about the fair. And now the situation is that we have lots of platforms, lots of technology, lots of sophistication, and no one knows how to plug and synchronize and use everything in terms of providing the frictionless and the seamless service to the guest or to the final client, because it is difficult. It is complicated to run an operation of a hotel where you have to provide smiles at the end because people are happy with the service, and you, on the other hand, have to learn and manage all these sophisticated issues, which is our industry. I think it's a responsibility to help them out because it's complicated, even because sometimes we still rely on the problem where, Danica, for example, the guests will be reviewing badly the hostel because of the weather. Well, that's how things work. Okay, let me see if I have another question here. I think we are all done with questions. We can get to an end. We can finalize. I would like before to thank for our sponsors, Review Pro, HS Latam, Tipalti, Book Online Now. Our media sponsors are Trend Tour, Diário del Hoteleiro, Center Smart Tourism, and Travel Tech Academy. If any of you have another observation, if you have, and Party Tech, they're correcting me now, I'm sorry, and Party Tech. If you have any observation, if you have any comment, Natalia, if you have some other question, please feel free. I'm here, I can listen. Who is watching us would be very glad and happy to interact. Feel free.
Well, I mean, I would just like to add that talks like this and what Travel Tech does is so fundamental to the industry. And I think we will have lots of interesting conversations. And I thank you all. I've learned loads today from my fellow panelists, which is always good. And I hope everybody listening in has found it super useful. But I think, like JJ said earlier on, as vendors, as hoteliers, as accommodation providers, whoever in this industry, we have to work together to really keep ahead
definitely
of other industries. We don't want WhatsApp prioritizing retail as an industry, for example. And I think that's what is key. And that, you know, and that's why we love our jobs. We work in these fun, exciting industries. And I think it's about to get really good. We deserve it after the last 3 years. So that's my
to do another point, to comment another point about the book of Ara Vocal I was reading, and she was commenting on a specific part. Well, how many hotels and how many airline companies you have in the world? If we can put that on comparison, it will always be much more complicated, because if you have in a small city, you're gonna have 10 or 20 different companies that are willing to pop up with a product that is technology for hotels, because they are attending to a small chain, and this is going to be sold to the other city and to the other destination. And there will be clients. These clients will connect to the check-in, to the airline, to the review. And so it's a very sophisticated technology salad, and we must support and dedicate our times to help hoteliers, because they are already busy enough with the operation, which is provide a good bed, a good laundry, and a good breakfast for everybody. And I think that's it. Thank you all.
Okay,
Thank you, Felipe, for inviting us, for hosting and driving the panel. Great job.
Yeah.
I thank you. I
Thanks
thank
a lot,
you.
Felipe. Thanks a lot, Travel.
Selena, Xose, please, if
Thank
you want to say a goodbye message, I thank you, everybody, for helping our enthusiasm and our war with everybody. And we are gonna be the resistance to help people to learn what they need to provide better reviews at the end if we can shortcut it. Better reviews because through the whole
Thank you very
process,
much.
that's what gets at the end.
Thank you very much, Felipe. You know that we are very good fans of Travel Tech and the effort you are doing throughout the year. And so all these presentations, all these conversations will be online for months and months, and people will be revisiting them. So yeah, congratulations for the fantastic work of this week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks a
guys.
lot, everyone.
Good
Thanks
to
a
see
lot.
you.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.